Okay, go.
Great. Welcome to No Instructions. I'm Bob.
I'm Josh.
Hey, I'm Forby.
I'm Anthony.
We're all here.
Yeah. All at the table.
All at a single table where there's typically 2 people. Now we have 4. So if you're watching the video, you can see how crammed we are here.
Yep.
Plenty of space.
4 mics, 4 Lego sets, and a keyboard.
I'm going to move the keyboard now.
Move the keyboard. Forby's in town, and last time he was in town, we didn't record because we got busy and stuff.
Anthony has the squeakiest chair.
Anthony has a squeaky chair. So, welcome back, Forby.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys not recording at all since last time I was here. Now we can resume the podcast.
We wanted to hold out for you.
Yeah.
So he's been in town for the week, and we're doing some planning and some work and some hanging out and some different stuffs. Talking about some really super cool things that we are not going to tell you about yet, but
Man, when we get to tell everybody about it,
it's going to be fun.
it's going to be really fun.
Yeah, actually, all of the things. It's funny because it's not just one thing that we're working on.
Yeah,
There's
that's like one of several.
several things that are going to be exciting to share. What's going on? Do we want to kind of go down the row? Say what's up? Anything new? Anthony, you want to go first? Anything
Sure.
new?
Keep hitting the guitar over here. I've been renovating my house a lot. If anybody follows me on Instagram, they know that. But that's basically what I've been up to outside of work, is painting and drywalling and plumbing and electrical. It's coming along. And we might get a sneak peek of that in a future video.
Yes. We're going to be doing a project at Anthony's house very soon. That will be cool.
Yeah.
And all the work is looking great. I'll give you some props because you guys are working hard. House is looking really fantastic.
Thank you. It's a huge mess right now because we have children on top of creating dust everywhere. But I'm starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel, which is really cool. Like things are starting to get the final polish on them in some areas. Some areas we haven't started yet, but the main living area is getting close to the end. We're nearing updating our kitchen cabinets. So if you want to help, Bob,
Nope.
there's an open invitation.
I haven't been over there since everything was wood paneling and you ripping out walls.
Yeah, it's all gone. Yeah, Bob and Josh came over back in, January or February and helped me take down a couple load-bearing walls. And
Then we left.
Yep.
Yeah.
We put up big beams. But a few weeks ago, the city inspector came by and approved our work in about 5 minutes. So we did a good job.
Yeah. Sweet.
We bragged him.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's not going to last. Just so you know, we just paid for it, so we wouldn't get in trouble with that proxy.
Whatever. Homeowners will cover that. Maybe.
Cool. And Forby, it's been a long time since you've been on the show.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't even know what I've really been up to. We've kind of been doing some renovating too at home. We have a sort of an unfinished attic space that has been unfinished for a long time that we're trying to kind of bring the floors up and level everything and do that. We're going slow at it, but we're making some progress.
Nice.
Cool. Yeah,
You guys finished
in progress
the.
for a long time.
You guys finished the Murphy bed.
Oh yeah, we did. We did the Murphy bed pretty much following exactly the same thing that, like the video. So we have a copy of your bed in our house.
It looks amazing.
That's cool.
Ooh, we should share that as user-generated content.
User-generated content. New buzzword
Yeah.
around the shop these days.
Is that cheating, though?
No.
If I
He
do
has a
it,
username on the website.
I'm a user. I am a user.
That's true.
It counts. We've been trying to learn marketing terms from our friend Matt, who's been helping us with marketing.
Words like synergy.
Yeah. UGC.
Yep.
So if you have any user-generated content, meaning that if you've done anything based off an I like to make stuff set of plans or a video that we've done, then submit it to us and we can share it around because that's what people who know how to market things do.
Yeah, but
Really good.
They cheat by rebranding your stuff.
No, it's really cool evidence of
Yeah.
the things that we get to do that would seem kind of personal and internal. It's evidence that those go out and have an effect on something in the real world. That's
yeah,
really cool.
it is really cool.
Well, Josh, what about you?
We've been at my house. We've been doing a project video that's at my house.
Yep.
So we want to say what it is? Or not? Yeah, we're doing a project in my son's room. So we've done lots of projects in your kid's room. Mm-hmm. So now we're doing a project in my son's room. And we thought it was going to be done But it's not done because it is challenging in a way that we did not anticipate. We are requiring a component that we thought should exist quite easily, but it doesn't exist like at all. So we thought we were going to be done by now. We're not. So we are
waiting on Amazon.
Yeah. We're doing a project in my house that should be out in the upcoming weeks.
Yeah,
Next week, maybe. I don't know. Anyway. But how are you?
I'm good. School started for our kids this week, which is kind of crazy. The summer absolutely flew by. And we were gone for the last... Like, we were gone for... I was gone for a week. The rest of the family was gone for 2 weeks. We got back and had some guests for a week. They left. The next day, the Forbies arrived, and we've had them. So it's been a lot of fun. We've gotten to see a lot of people lately that we haven't seen in a very long time, and then we roll right into school starting. And so it's the end of summer just disappeared very quickly. And the kids are back at school for the first time. One of my boys went back at the end of last year just because it was working out better for him. And it was good for him to go back, but now they're all back in. And so, it's been mixed emotions for them and stuff, but I think it'll be good in the long run. So, and it's so quiet here during the day now that they're gone. I mean, we've had kids home to some capacity for like a year and a half. Always, And
it's crazy.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about that.
It's very, very different. Which I guess it's probably like a really temporary feeling of what having an empty nest is going to be like when all of a sudden you come home and there's just nothing going on. There's nobody around and stuff. That's going to be weird. I'm getting old enough that I'm thinking about things like that. So that's weird. But good.
I think about it too. I'm not as old as you, but I think about it too. Not in like a longing way, but it's kind of weird because proximity of all the different ages of our kids. Like, your son's going to start high school, next year.
Yeah.
I've been looking at the Jeep that I drive every day going like, oh man, this would be cool to get a new vehicle, and just as, pipe dreams. Now, my kids could be driving my Jeep.
Yeah.
My kids could learn how to drive on the Jeep that I bought out of spite this one time in 2006. I was like, whoa. And so, yeah, while our kids are not as far along as yours, it's just those weird little moments in life that make you, think down the road that far.
Yeah. I mean, the age of your kids is just a little bit behind ours, so I'm sure you could probably see some of your immediate future in our present all the time.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, stuff is good. I'm glad that we're all here hanging out together, and I have a random topic that I thought of earlier today. And I thought it would be fun just
We've been thinking of a lot today. How did you have time to think of something random?
Well, I read an article the other day about James Bond.
Ooh.
And
James Bond?
Mr. James Bond, Captain James Bond. And he got me thinking about cinematic universes.
Okay.
So I want to talk about cinematic universes.
Let's do it.
So this article was about the new James Bond movie. Just for the record, I've always loved James Bond. I hate Pierce Brosnan ones. Like, I've seen them all one time out of duty, and then it's done. I'm not a big fan of Roger Moore, but all the rest of them, right on. Love it. Always loved it. So, I'm really excited about the new movie finally coming out in a month or 2 months or whatever it is. This article was about, rather than like resetting the timeline and the history of James Bond every time they get a new actor, which is what they do. They just basically start over and ignore everything that came before, pretty much. There's this fan theory rolling around, it has for many years, about how James Bond is an alias rather than a person.
Oh, yeah.
And so theoretically, all of the James Bonds could be individual people with individual things, but there's a lot of inconsistency with that because there are other characters that recur that have the same name, like villains and stuff that show up. Anyway, so this article was about, what if they decided to, from now on, adopt that and make everything going forward in James Bonddom from now on a cohesive, attached, historical universe. Which I think would be really cool.
Yeah.
Whether they did the alias thing or not. But it got me thinking in a bigger sense about whether cinematic universes are the way for everything to move forward, or if there's still room in some of these series to have similar but disconnected things. Because like everything moves to, there's like the Fast universe now, and there's all these like offshoots and characters and overlaps, and there's Star Wars has unified into a single long timeline, and there's new Transformers movies coming out, and they're trying to figure out how to rectify the old garbage with the new thing that they hope will be less garbage and stuff like that. So I love cinematic universes. I think it's a cool way to go about it, but I'm sure there's still room in certain franchises to avoid that. So I don't know. I want to hear your thoughts. And go.
So I watched Matt Damon on Hot Ones the other day. Did anybody see that?
Nope.
No.
It was really good. He's got a new movie coming out, but he runs a studio called Project Greenlight, where they try to like fund and produce. They call them like indie movies, but I guess they're just not as popular return on investment style movies. And in the interview, Chris Evans asked him, or actually he was responding from a question. It says, "Why aren't there any movies out right now that I want to watch?" Which seems like a super vague question. And Matt Damon like popped up. He was like, "Yep, this is why." And he was saying now because of COVID and because of movies that are being released streaming instead of going to DVD, that studios now, whenever they make money on a movie, they make the theatrical release and then they make quite a bit on DVD purchases or DVD rentals. Or DVD rentals back in the day, but DVD purchases.
VHS rentals.
Yeah.
Huge market.
Yep.
And so he's saying that because of COVID and because of streaming services have been like the norm now, and now a movie being released on a streaming service concurrently with a theatrical release, it says that a movie studio is not making the same amount of movie or not it's the same amount of money on a movie. So all movies nowadays have to have a huge automatic return on investment with property identification or association, like the cinematic universe tie-in to where you feel like you have to watch a chapter even though you don't really want to watch that chapter.
Sure, just to continue on,
Right.
like to keep going.
Like Black
down the
Widow.
hill.
Like
Black Widow
like the
wasn't...
Pierce Brosnan Bond movies.
Sure. But I
Love
think
those.
that the cinematic universe conversation, I mean, it definitely happened before streaming services were very prevalent, but I think it only strengthens that argument that like, for instance, my wife and I were watching A Star Is Born the other night because I wanted to watch it. It's a really good movie. You've watched it? Bradley Cooper directed him and Lady Gaga. Fantastic movie. And it made you feel things that were not just like, whoa, that was cool, or some nostalgia-based joy. And I wondered, like, if that movie right now, like, could it get made without Bradley Cooper directing it?
But that's not wholly a new story. That was a remake of a remake.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, there were.
Barbra Streisand.
Yeah, Barbra Streisand and Chris Christopherson.
I thought that's funny because I thought that character was based on Chris Christopherson. Just watching it, I didn't know they actually made that movie.
Yeah.
Okay, well, even that's cheating then. I mean, they had some kind of like data to back it up.
Right, exactly.
It's not an original.
Yeah, you're right. It's a safer bet to use something that people can already like use as an anchor to sell tickets.
And I'm sure that they were able to make that money in the pitch. You could make that money back on soundtrack copyright. Be able to go for Oscars and Grammys at the same time, tie in with the popularity of Lady Gaga. So like all this stuff it's an investment conversation rather than trying to make a good piece of art that you can broadcast to the masses.
Yeah.
And so I wonder in the cinematic universe conversation that if someone were to pitch an idea, like, then it can tie in with this other thing that's making millions right now, rather than just being a standalone good piece of art.
Yeah. Interesting. Anyone?
That's interesting because I think I might be more with Bob, and I really like the idea of the cinematic universe because I've always been a fan of world building in any type of story. Like I want to learn more about what drives this universe that these characters are living in. Unlike in TV, where I find myself really invested in the character development, I feel like a lot of times in movies and even video games, I find myself more interested in the development of the world, which can really expand to absurd, almost like untrackable sizes with universes as big as Marvel or Star Wars. Because at that point, I mean, you basically have the creative freedom to do whatever you want to, add rules, change rules, or whatever. But fascinating to me to see that. What's going on over there?
Sorry, I didn't mean to
hold your belt
distract.
again.
No, it's fine.
I need to reach the next bag of my set, but we're so close together at the table that I can't fit to lean down and
I
get
just
the
dropped one anyway.
Yeah, after you make your point, can you hand me bag 3 of that box over there?
Bag 3 of this box. Here.
After you make your point.
Well, what was I saying? Here, I'll just hand you the whole box. I got it. Squeaky
This
chair.
is convenient.
We're professional podcasters, in case
Yeah.
you didn't know.
Yeah,
Diagnose.
we're very professional in our podcasting abilities. I'm gonna lose that piece in 4-piece set.
I think I lost one in Josh's too. But
Maybe this was a bad idea.
But anyway, but yeah, world building is kind of a big deal for me. So I'm excited about the new Uncharted movie that's allegedly coming out finally in February. But that's based off of a world that was developed in a video game.
yeah,
Right.
Granted, a very cinematic video game, so it's basically like an interactive movie. If you've ever played any of the Uncharted games, they're wonderful. Lindsay and I are going to play through them again here soon before the movie comes out. And that movie is world building. It's going back in time. We're learning about young Nathan Drake and young Sullivan, which is pretty cool, and kind of how they came to be where they are. So I don't know. I just get really fascinated by worlds that are other than ours. I think that might also play into why I like Minecraft so much, but that's another topic for another day. So yeah, the building of the world. But I can also see the creative restrictions to boxing yourself inside of a universe that may or may not have already been established. For example, with Bond, like no one said it was a cinematic universe, but now it's becoming one. So that could inherently bring creative restrictions to future directors that they weren't expecting.
They didn't get to reboot every time, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
but I think now you're starting to see. Well, I mean, Marvel is kind of the exception and front runner in terms of what world building could really be, because they
Timelines.
have carte blanche to really do almost whatever they want now with timelines. And even so, we watched What If the other night.
Oh yeah, that
And
came out
that's-
yesterday.
Yeah, it's
Ooh.
I really liked it, but it's an example and a just sort of a showcase of taking world building and then just like turning it on its head.
Yeah.
And doing something new. I think that not everything needs a cinematic universe if you're telling the same story every time, which I would kind of argue that the Fast films kind of are.
And I
But-
love James
Still love
Bond. I
him.
think James Bond is too.
Yeah, I would kind of agree with that. Like for those that really love the stories and like the character, getting more of it is often always going to be a good thing. But I think world building makes sense, and cinematic universes make sense if you can then tell more and different stories, like the way that the way that Loki kind of started to just unfold and expand a character in a way that you hadn't seen him before, and then tell a new type of story that the big franchise movies kind of weren't able to, because they have to deliver like the heroic arc a certain way.
It kind of ties back into what I said with TV versus movies, because it is a
Sure.
more formatted like a TV show, which is
Yeah.
based on a character, while the movies are more
You know, one show that is hard to really get out of my mind is
The Office.
Legion. Have you ever seen Legion?
I haven't seen
yeah,
it.
I saw a little bit of it.
It's on FX, and it's really weird, and I think that that's why I really like it, because it's taking a character in a world that, I mean, it's somewhat of an obscure character, I think. Maybe not everybody knows who Legion is, but there are characters that you could recognize, but it's telling a very strange and weird story, a story about mental illness and about, trouble with reality and things like that. It's just a very, very different story than like the typical superhero arc. And I think that it's refreshing to see that in a world that has both, when you have people kind of making both.
And it's connected to something that you kind of already know.
Right,
Which I think
exactly.
is interesting. Yeah.
But it can still live on its own. It can
Right.
still kind of be its own thing. And Legion, my gosh, it very much is its own thing. It's amazing that it was even made.
Yeah. The little bit I saw, I got that same feeling. I didn't follow it through. Not for any particular reason. We just never did. But yeah, it's definitely a different type of thing. So I think there's actually like kind of three things. You could think of the cinematic universe, the I don't even know how you would label them. You could think of something where everything connects. You could think of something where nothing connects, and you could think of something where it's repeating, it's rebooting itself constantly.
Like the Addams Family.
Yeah, like, so those last two things are not really the same. So you know, I guess it's easy to lump everything that's not Marvel-esque into this pile of, you know, it can't get made unless it has these things and star quality. I think those are good points. But like, there are certain movies that stand alone that should be made because they don't need to connect to anything. And there's other things that I think what James Bond has been so far, where it's rehashing a theme and trying to update that theme for the current iteration, you know. And like in the Craig era of Bond movies, they went into his personal backstory and his personal torture a lot more than they ever had before.
Yeah.
And so I think that was cool, even though the movies as a whole, yes, they're the same shtick as all the other ones. But I think that stands out to me as like an absolutely viable option that people avoid now because the MCU style thing. And think about Transformers specifically.
Oh boy.
It would be good for them to cut ties
Yeah.
with history and just be like, now we're going to do something different. And they kind of did with Bumblebee.
Yeah.
But instead of continuing to cut those ties and continuing to release independent things, they're going to take that as the reboot point, I think, you know, and kind of work from there. So I don't know. I don't know of any other examples like that where Addams Family is a good one. I wouldn't have thought of that, but where, you know, it could be rebooted on a regular basis every few years and take on a different tone. But.
See, but now that, after hearing that thing that Matt Damon said, like, the idea of Transformers coming out is annoying to me.
Yeah, yeah, I agree.
It's very annoying that, like, a property, and I'm looking at you, Spider-Man, even though I really enjoyed the latest iteration of Spider-Man. I enjoyed the Raimi Spider-Man. But, like, there are movies out there that, sounds really sad, there are artistic movies out there that could use the opportunity to become an Oscar winner, while a boardroom is talking about how many times is it going to take for us to make Transformers cool? And I guess it's an investment on every single time those movies make money. So there's the answer.
Yeah. Right.
But it's, as the group of decision makers that decide what is going to be popular or what's going to get made, even now in the mega selective environment that we're in right now, like, can you stop making Transformers movies?
Yeah.
Can you quit, please?
I mean, it would make sense to at least let it breathe. You know,
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
People will enjoy it more if there's some scarcity to it, I would think.
Yeah.
But I do think you have to acknowledge that there's two entirely different audiences for mass appeal, action, blockbuster stuff, and those artistic things that just need to be made because they need to be made. I think those are two different audiences. And they're bankrolled completely different by different groups of people, too.
Aren't there some movies where they end up getting made just because just to hold on to the rights of a character?
Oh, yeah.
Weren't there a few? I think Fantastic Four was one of those where they were
They were
going to lose the
I heard
rights to the
about that.
characters, so they made the one several years ago.
The first
I might be
Fantastic
wrong about
Four, the one with Jessica Alba, has been removed from Disney Plus.
Oh.
Dun dun
Got put in
dun.
timeout.
Or they just want to get rid of it because they're making another one.
Yeah, probably.
I mean, one of the sad realities about Hollywood too is like art for art's sake versus what's going to make money. What's going to make money is almost always going to win, which is why I think when it comes to more independent stuff that people have funded themselves deserve more attention, which is again a whole nother conversation. But you know, where does one start to find that kind of stuff and help it gain its popularity?
Yeah, I wonder if stuff like that has the same, or if they have the same opportunity to be included in a Netflix-style catalog.
Well, I think that might be...
You know what I mean? As like the big companies who can just be like, hey, we've got a new box of movies for you, Mr. Netflix. Here you go. Put all these on there.
Yeah.
Well, the beauty of that is things like Netflix are a lot more accessible to lesser known directors and, you know, filmmakers
That's a good point.
in today's day and age. I mean, you could probably browse the Netflix library and find something you've never heard of and really enjoy it, because there's a lot of really good storytellers out there that don't have their name written in lights.
Yeah, but
So,
that content
hopefully-
is starting, in my opinion, that content is being diluted by all of the other craziness on Netflix.
That's true.
So to have a movie that can stand on its own, that can be the greatest story for our generation with some fantastic actors or lesser known actors for that matter. Like, while Netflix has the accessibility to do it, they're also up against Tiger King, which, I mean, could be in this conversation for a lot of people, but... And I don't necessarily have an example of a movie that was built or made back when that would not fit the big summertime blockbuster, but it seems like big summertime blockbusters are the things that are being bankrolled.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like Stranger Things, though, was kind of an anomaly when it first came out. It was mostly actors we'd never heard of, and it took off.
Yeah.
And it was really good original
Yeah, it was new.
storytelling.
It felt fresh.
I mean, yeah, they had Winona Ryder, but who had thought about her in the last 25 years anyway?
So maybe the conversation is less about the piece of art, but how you, I guess, categorize it, because that's a show.
Yeah, it's true.
Like, so that,
Blurring lines there.
yeah, Stranger Things is not going to win an Oscar.
Could win an Emmy, did it?
Right.
It did, didn't it? It won
It
something.
would win an Emmy. It's a miniseries.
Yeah.
I don't know I don't know how that categorization works.
Well, as the local Emmy expert, I'm going to go ahead and say they were not allowed to come. They were not in the green room that I was in, so it didn't exist.
Okay, so
would've been cool.
let's switch gears. If there were a movie that you loved or a show that you loved, something that just never really got attention that it deserved or never had the longevity that you wanted it to have, what is a thing that you personally would have loved to seen become like a bigger series or a bigger universe or something?
Did y'all ever see Tomorrowland?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that would be I think the movie itself could have been made a little better. It was kind of long and slow.
But it wasn't bad.
But I really liked the ideas behind that movie
Yeah.
and kind of the warped history that they incorporated for the sake of story. And the characters were good. The acting was great. I think that had an opportunity to be its own universe, but it kind of flopped.
Yeah.
It was advertised poorly, I think, is what ended up causing it to flop so hard. That would be mine.
I'm going to go with Edge of Tomorrow.
I was just about to say that.
And I watched that the other night.
Yeah, it's a great movie.
It is so good.
You know they're making another one.
I've heard that they're talking about it.
Yeah.
But I think it keeps getting pushed because he keeps doing Mission Impossible movies. Yeah, I don't know if it's actually going to happen or not. I hope so.
Emily Blunt was doing some promo work for the Jungle Cruise, and she talked about it.
Oh,
So
awesome.
I think they're moving forward.
Okay, I think the Jungle Cruise is exactly what I was talking about.
Of making
Making a movie just because it had association and just because it can like be wrapped into the ride, which could then draw revenue. And like I get it from a boardroom perspective, that SEO of a movie and a ride and a video game and a line of action figures or whatever, like that makes complete sense.
Plus, The Rock was already in costume from Jumanji, so they saved some money.
Sure, but like a river runs through it is not going to be in this conversation anymore. Or, I don't know, enter whatever movie that you really liked that was some artistic piece, like, I don't know, Schindler's List, like one Best Picture, but I doubt that you could make a movie. Not that it would need to be revamped, but like in that conversation, let's make a historical documentary about something sad.
You're going to reboot Schindler's List into a cinematic universe.
For Schindler's List.
You absolutely could, because they're like, oh, let's do it right now. We can do this. We're going to reboot Schindler's List, but then it's going to be Magneto's origin story.
And then he could run into Indiana Jones.
Yeah, and then you can see Wanda for the first time, and then how she went with her parents. And right now, we could get people's attention peaked. But then it wouldn't be the original story. You would have to bastardize it with a whole bunch of other stuff.
Right.
But what would I... Man.
Scott Pilgrim.
No, because while you were talking, I was thinking about movies that I really loved that had their own universe, and I loved that their universe stopped.
I think Scott Pilgrim is one of those. Like, to do another one of those would just...
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought about the movie Pleasantville, which I really like. And that movie had a world, like in a completely separate world that you just accepted when you watched that movie. he went into the TV or whatever. Like, sure. And that was fine. Like, stop that. You had an interesting plot. You had an interesting set of characters. You had motivations that only existed within the confines of this 2-hour piece of art. Got it. And then when I'm done, I could feel how I felt about it, and then I could move on. Like a book. Like a really, really good book. Not the 12-part series of books.
Well, what about something along those lines? What about something like Twilight Zone or Black Mirror or one of those where every episode is... It's following a theme. It's following a point, but every one is kind of an independent universe type, world type. They're not connected to each other.
At that point, you're making short films with
a common
themes.
Branding,
which is cool.
But they don't have to carry together. It's not like the
Like-
pig people
like
in one
Goosebumps.
have to work through the other. Yeah, exactly.
So I would say one property that I wish would have been expanded on more, even though they did a great job, was How to Train Your Dragon.
Ooh, yeah.
Because there are 12 How to Train Your Dragon books, and there's only 3 movies.
I didn't know there were books at all until you said you were reading them with your son.
Yeah, we read them a long time ago, and we're about to read them with my second son. And they're fantastic. They're not as heavy, but I think the movies, like if we're comparing movies and books and whatever, I know it's not in this conversation, but they did a fantastic job of adapting a story from a book. And I remember in the third one, like, half my family was crying in the third movie, to where in the books that didn't happen. They're just like adventure-y, kind of like he's a young king kind of book series. But I think with the breadth of content that they had available, they could have taken that and made that The Land Before Time, but not burned out on episode 12
Yeah.
when they meet the cavemen or whatever. But
They met cavemen?
I don't know. They probably did.
Guess we gotta find
How'd they learn how to sing all them songs?
They run into the Croods.
There's our new universe.
That's right.
Oh man, this is so silly that you could do that. I was just like, well, okay. So then they meet this group, and then they meet that group, and then it's just
There's Fred Flintstone.
this.
Killed by the Flintstones.
Oh, the Flintstones. They could not remake the Flintstones. That'd be great.
Well, they have.
I know they should
they'll-
stop.
And
they'll
and
do it again.
Scooby-Doo
Don't
as
do it
well.
again.
So, Forby, did you have one other than World of or
Edge of Tomorrow? No. That was just one of the movies where I was thinking I'd like to see more of the story, but I was kind of trying to approach it like what sequels have I seen where I liked them more than the original, or thought that it was a good continuation, and I don't think there are really many that I can think of.
Did you see A Quiet Place?
Maybe like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2. That was a good,
It was,
that was a
but
good sequel. I didn't see A Quiet Place 2.
A Quiet Place and A Quiet Place 2, is a fantastic movie. So I don't think that needs a cinematic universe. Maybe this is part of this conversation. The first one was outstanding. And from what I understand, John Krasinski was pressured into making a second one because of probably money,
Yeah.
which is cool. But it was fantastically done. It expanded on the universe, even though it was a nice, tight little ball of a universe that they were operating in. And it gave you conditions without spelling everything out. You understood what was going on. And their universe got a little bit bigger, but it still kept to, I think, the same feel as the first one. And it was a fantastic sequel.
It definitely felt like a continuation of a single story rather than like, now they're going on another adventure or whatever, you know.
They go up to the spaceship, and then they deal with the monsters themselves, and they implant a computer virus. Which sounds kind of cool.
A quieter place.
Yep.
A quiet
The
space.
quietest.
In space, no one can hear you. Be quiet. See? We're really good at this.
So we should call old John Krasinski.
Yep.
Got an idea for you. Quiet Place 3. In space.
Maybe we could do a Quiet Place, The Good Place.
The quiet good place.
Yeah. That'd be awesome.
Well,
Do you think that the... I'm going to just talk about the MCU because the DCU
That's a thing?
is garbage.
DCEU.
DCU,
What's the E stand for?
yeah.
Extended.
Ugh.
Expanded.
Extra.
Exploding.
Ugh.
Ew.
So, do you think that the bubble's going to pop soon? Because they plan out phases, massive phases, and anticipation of demand, which is really smart.
Yeah.
but Disney is putting a lot of eggs in a few baskets.
I would argue that it has kind of popped in the sense that what Marvel and Disney are doing can't be replicated quite the same way. Like they're already at the scale and they're working in such a way that, like, I don't know if any other franchise could really follow and kind of do the same thing. They've got so much story to already draw on from Marvel history and comic books.
But does the Fast and the Furious franchise prove that the story doesn't really matter as much, that it's the characters?
It is
Well,
very character-driven.
to a point, but if you look at the span of that universe versus the MCU, sheer number of pieces of content, not even close.
Right.
Right. So I don't think you could say that you could carry into a 25 movie arc plus TV shows plus this plus that with no story. I just don't think that would. It would run out
I think
quicker
the end
than
of the Fast
Yeah.
series.
Did you
is
hear
actually-
that, Transformers producers?
Yeah, I don't know.
So bubble popping, like the comic book bubble, because if history's told us, in the 90s the comic book bubble burst, and people hated comic books, and the whole industry for quite a while tanked.
I don't know if about it popping, but I do know that they got through their first round of Avengers, the biggest characters that Marvel had to offer. I don't know if that's quite true. But they've introduced the big names, right? There aren't any more Spider-Man characters. There aren't any more Iron Man characters that everybody knows that just haven't gotten a movie yet. Mm-hmm. And so now they're dipping into second tier, not as their worst characters. They're just not as, like, their popularity is second tier. And they're going to get through those, and then they're going to go to third tier. And then they're going to have to start writing original characters, which would be super cool. But the global popularity and immediate recognition of their top tier characters at any given day is going to change over time. That's going to diminish. So I think from that perspective, you could say, yeah, the bubble for popularity, known franchise faces, because they're not going to reboot those.
Well,
You know what I mean?
I'll push back a little bit, because when they purchased Fox, they just now have access to create an entire breadth of content with Marvel's most popular characters.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, true.
So if, like, the popping would just be,
Yeah, I didn't think about that.
I don't know what the pop, an MCU character or whatever universe would look like, but on paper,
They haven't
they
started.
have just started. Yeah.
That's a good point. It's funny because X-Men for me was not really a thing growing up. Like, they got really popular right after I was into stuff. So in my mind, my personal experience, they're always just a down the line, set of characters that I wasn't really super aware of. But that's not the case. That's just my experience. Well, I don't know. Any other thoughts about cinematic universes or lack thereof, or?
I'm fine with there being less cinematic universes. I think that unless they're willing to tell new stories, I'm usually not looking for like 7 of the same movie. Mm-hmm. Some continuation I think is fine. I think that it can work. It's not just a hard fast rule, but I would like to. I think there's probably a lot of people that are ready to just see new stories, just new things, new ideas.
Mm-hmm. I would agree with that. I definitely think there's a place for both, because there's part of me that just loves the continuity of long-term connective, especially if it's pre-planned. Like, that's just super cool to me. I think that's a logistics thing. It's like, how do we write out the next 5 movies to work together and have, Easter eggs and stuff? I love that. But
We do it by printing money.
I absolutely understand that there are other things, like Scott Pilgrim, who are just good, and they should just stay like that. Like, it doesn't need to be a big thing. I don't know how long we've been talking, but unless you guys have anything else, we could
talk about the Napoleon Dynamite cinematic universe.
Oh, well, there's the Cornetto. Is it Cornetto?
Oh, yeah.
Series or whatever.
Yep.
The 3.
Yep.
From Edgar Wright. I mean, I would say that those, at least the first 2, I really enjoyed. Kind of, sort of in this, like, it's not really a cinematic universe, but maybe in terms of a shared style, but telling different stories. Yeah. I don't know if that could be considered the same thing, but I did enjoy those.
Yeah, I hadn't considered that in the same way. I mean, I would definitely think it's a bit different, as in that the characters are not aware of each other. They don't interact. They're not necessarily happening in the same world or anything.
What are these now?
Like Shaun of the Dead.
Sorry, yeah.
Oh,
Shaun of
okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
World's End and
Hot Fuzz.
Hot Fuzz. Yeah. Oh, man. Hot Fuzz. That's a good one.
Yep. It has been a while since I've seen that one.
That's such a good movie.
I might still have your copies. I can't remember.
No wonder I haven't seen them in so long.
Maybe. I could have brought them back. You should look for them. And if you can't find them, they're somewhere in a box at my house.
Okay. Cool. Any other thoughts? Anyone?
I can't stop thinking about the quote-unquote Legend of Zelda universe. I know it's a more video game, but that's kind of a twist on this whole developed universe thing.
It's true.
It started as a standalone game, and now somehow, 35 something odd years later, however long it's been, that original game is actually like in the middle of the timeline that everything has happened in. But that Link, that main character in that one, isn't the same Link in the preceding or other. What's the opposite of preceding? Post-seating games. But he also is. So he's like a reincarnation of himself.
What?
Yeah. So like, there are some games that are direct sequels, like Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask. That game chronologically happens one after the other. But like, you go from Skyward Sword. I don't know. I don't have the timeline right here in front of me. But basically, yeah, each game happens hundreds of years apart in some cases. And these are actually reincarnations of characters. Some might believe that some of the more spiritual beings are the same the whole time because they transcend time or whatever. But it's a really interesting take on this universe or multiverse, because there is some time travel involved too.
So is the princess? Okay, I've never played a Zelda game. Okay,
Princess Zordlaw.
Yeah, I want to hear this. Yeah.
So is Zelda the princess, who's I think the object of the game is to save Zelda, right?
Mostly.
So is she not the same Zelda throughout these, or is she not even involved in a lot of these?
So spoiler alert, she is more than just a princess. She is the...
No, I'm never going to play him.
She's the earthly incarnation of the goddess Hylia, at least in most of the games. I think it might be true for all the games. And you're not just saving Zelda, you're saving the world from destruction of the evil force controlled by Ganon or Ganondorf or Calamity Ganon or whichever one, but the spiritual being Ganon. And the curse is basically Link and Zelda are reliving lives or reincarnating lives in this cycle of fighting Ganon.
Oh, okay.
And so they keep coming back. Yeah.
Right. So that's why they can keep making new games with the same reincarnations.
And they have the creative flexibility to pretty much do whatever they want with each iteration of the game by bringing in new characters or doing this and that, because it's a
entire new
different
look, artistic styling, like,
and it's worked to their advantage, I'd say. Yeah, it's
but there
pretty
are
cool.
a lot of similarities still between the games in terms of the way that sometimes the temples are.
Yeah,
like the way they scale and
I think
some
Breath
same
of the,
weapons.
Yeah, Breath of the Wild was one of the biggest departures as far as gameplay goes, which they did a really good job with it. We'll take that second one any day now, Nintendo. But yeah, they still captured the essence of the Zelda series, which is pretty cool. So super fascinating stuff.
Gotcha.
Okay, so to bring it back to James Bond.
Ooh, nice wrap.
What do you hope that James Bond does? You know, are they going to bring in a female James Bond, and then they would... Actually, Corridor did a video where they showed James Bond dying, and then the new person who inherits the name. Like, they showed all the ways that he would actually die. It was pretty entertaining. But to replace Daniel Craig, how do you hope or foresee that franchise going?
Well, I mean, I think in this movie, I don't think it's been explicitly said, but there is a new 007 in this movie, and it is a female. And so in the trailers, he's like with a woman who she's like flying a plane in part of it, and that is the 007 that replaced him from the last movie because he was done and he was out, whatever. And so I don't know if he's coming back, if James Bond is coming back to the government in an official capacity in this movie, or if it's just a thing. But 007 is not explicitly attached to James Bond. So I don't really care about that, but I'm just making the point that, there already is a little bit of a break there. So I don't think that the whole alias thing with the call number will happen for that reason.
He just relinquishes the number and some new person.
Yeah, I mean, that's the way it's always been.
Peggy McBriar takes on 007.
There have been multiple 008s and stuff like that throughout the movies. So, they're different people. It's just a code number or whatever. But as far as, what I want out of this movie, I don't know. There's a lot of the historical stuff around how misogynistic James Bond has always been. Obviously, we don't want to carry that stuff forward. It'd be great if he were a little more of a balanced person, but he's also been pretty tortured through these last few movies, which I think has made him a lot more interesting.
Yeah.
And that stuff is usually downstream from some trauma or from some stuff like that. So I wouldn't want them to get rid of that. In the case of just making him more politically correct, I think they could find another way to do it. But I don't know, and I don't know what I want next. After this movie and who they bring in and what the type of character becomes, I don't have any idea. I just like the action. I like the chase. I've always been drawn to detective types, and I feel like he's just on the line of barely a detective, mostly a kind of blunt instrument. But he's, he and Sherlock Holmes and Batman growing up, those were my three, the characters that I was really drawn to. So, I don't know.
Are you waiting for the next Sherlock Holmes reboot whenever they inevitably do that?
I love Sherlock Holmes stuff.
Because now there was Henry Cavill was in a Sherlock Holmes thing where he was not the lead.
He was Sherlock Holmes, and
he was, and then it was
his sister,
Enola
Enola Holmes, and that was really good. Mm-hmm. And they're making another one of those. Ooh. So apparently he's supposed to be more involved as a character and not.
I would hope so, because he's awfully expensive, I imagine.
Yeah, that was a good one. I liked that movie a lot.
So is there a cinematic universe in there that you could see?
Yeah, I mean, they've talked about...
In that pitch meeting?
Well, they've talked about even making a third with Robert Downey Jr. Because those two were really good and really artistic. Guy Ritchie did them, so they had the cool punching and stuff,
yep.
So I think that was good. But even, the different iterations of Sherlock Holmes have been completely independent, but all really cool. And so I think the same thing could be done where you just keep rebooting in a different time and a different, with different characteristics. I mean, the one with Mr. Cumberbund,
Benedict
Cumberbatch. He was using texting and the internet and stuff to get to his answers quicker.
Yeah.
And that was a totally different thing for that character.
Mm-hmm. I like how they brought Watson and out of kind of modern day conflicts too. Yeah. They updated that whole thing. That his service was actual service. I really like that. It wasn't even a miniseries, right? It was an actual series. They have 2 seasons of that show?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I really like that.
Yeah, it was excellent. So I don't know. I don't know what they should do with either of those, but I really like them.
Is there a property that you hope that they don't do this to?
Like that they don't make a universe out of, or
yep. They don't try to make a universe. Yep, just leave it be.
Oh man.
I hope they don't make Ready Player 2.
Oh, it's already being made.
I know.
I was actually a little
the first page of that book that I read. I'm like, oh, okay, they're making a movie.
Yeah, I was kind of disappointed that he wrote a second book, to be honest.
Yeah.
But
gosh, the first book was so good.
But I get it.
Yeah. I think the first movie was standalone, pretty good. But if you're really attached to the book like I was, it was kind of disappointing.
Yeah.
I had to go back and rewatch it and watch it from a different perspective, and then I enjoyed it. But yeah.
Check out this weird R2-D2 that I'm building.
Whoa.
Everybody listening can't see it, but it is an extremely complicated structure that does not look like R2-D2. But
I have a tiny speeder bike made out of binoculars.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Huh.
I have a bunch of chess pieces.
And we didn't even talk about what we're working on in case for people are not watching.
Go down the line?
Sure. I'm working on the big R2-D2, Lego R2-D2 set number 43, 70, 90, 1D.
If you're interested in the sets, they are listed in the show notes. So if you go to your podcast player and you link down the description, it should be all right there. And if you're watching on YouTube, it is in the actual description of the video with
Yes.
links. So you can get these yourself.
What are you
I
doing?
am doing the Lego Harry Potter chess set. The
Lights.
it does not have lights. It has little flames, but they don't light up.
You have to use magic.
It looks like it has lights.
It should have lights. That would be way cooler if it did.
Oh yeah, you gotta cast this.
Corby, what are you building?
I've got a set that I started 2 years ago, I believe.
That we found.
So it's taken 2 years for this,
lot of
couple
gold on
hundred
there.
piece set of Reinhardt and Diva from Overwatch.
You should not finish it and see how many years you can go.
Yeah, I think I'm done. I think I'll save the rest for
See in 2024.
yeah.
I'm working on the Tatooine homestead over here. Found this laying around. It was quick and small, and I'm still not done. So
Cool.
Oh, I've been
Anyway,
insulted.
well, let's wrap it up. You can find all of us at I Like to Make Stuff on all the stuff. Do you want to say where to find you personally? On your...
Yeah, Anthony and I are doing a CNC off.
Oh, yeah.
So you should go
Oh, that's right.
follow Anthony at.
Anthony Films Stuff on Instagram. I think that's what I am now. I think it's officially over there, and that's basically where all my posting happens these days.
And I'm
on
at
TikTok if you're
And I'm
into it,
at Josh_make stuff. Before we away.
And I'm at 4B.
It's the best.
Of course he is.
but for me what?
That's it.
Oh, no
Cool.
wonder I've never been
Well,
able to
hope
find you.
you enjoyed us talking through movies and stuff. And if not, I apologize. You can have your money back. But thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time.
Bye bye.
Bye.